Welcome to the Inside Silverstone podcast, a business-focused podcast covering all things tech, engineering and innovation. Hosted by me, Chris Broome, a huge tech, motorsport and gaming fan, and also the owner of Longhurst, a firm of lifestyle financial planners and independent financial advisors located in Silverstone, Northamptonshire. This is a series of unscripted and unpolished conversations with leading business owners, thought leaders and high-tech talent where we discuss their experiences within the Silverstone business and motorsport region. We will also be asking them to share their knowledge, insight and their thoughts on the future just for you. If you're looking to learn more about the Silverstone high growth region and commercially connect with like-minded peers, you've definitely come to the right place. Welcome to Inside Silverstone. Welcome to the next episode of Inside Silverstone. My name is Chris Broome and I am your host. Today I am delighted to welcome to the show Ben Rossiter-Turner and Darren Kirk from Virtually Entertained. Guys, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Pleasure. Right, as is customary, guys, if it's okay, I'm going to just quickly run through quick CVs. Journey today, just so that our listeners can understand a little bit about sort of what you've done sort of academically and career-wise to get to the point of running the business that you're running. And then once we've done that, we'll then talk through Virtually Entertained and a little bit about the STC, if that's okay.
Yep.
Right, Ben, I will start with your good self. So you, well, in fact, you actually both went to school at Royal Latin.
Yep.
But different age groups clearly. So you weren't in the same year, I hear. Is that right?
No, I'm much younger.
A little younger.
We worked out there must have been a crossover when you were probably starting the school and I was leaving the school.
Yeah, I think I was in year 7 when you were like year 12 or 13.
Yeah. So we didn't know each other.
We didn't know each other.
Obviously, an excellent education.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. That was the point of the question. So obviously, there's something in the water or the food that they're serving.
Yeah, Lawrence, one of our business partners, also went to Royal Latin, but many years before us.
Yes. Wow, so you all went to Royal Latin?
Well, there's another couple of us, but yeah, 3 out of 5.
Wow. Okay, good. Something to be said about that. So you went to Royal Latin, Ben, and then university-wise you did a BA in drama, theatre and stagecraft. Yeah. And then 2011 to 2013 had a number of sort of management roles within Daytona Motorsport. Yep. After which in 2014 to present, you then became managing director of a business called Simply Race, which in 2017 was awarded the Milton Keynes Leisure Attraction of the Year award, which is fantastic. And then in 2017, alongside a number of other sort of business partners, one of whom we've got here today, Darren, you guys set up a business called Virtually Entertained, which we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. And then also in 2017, because you like winning awards, you were then awarded the Young Business Person of the Year through the Milton Keynes Business Achievement Awards.
Yeah, that's correct.
Fantastic. Darren, also Royal Latin.
Yep, that's
as
true.
We've established. Went to Portsmouth University where you did a HND in Business Information and Systems.
Yep.
2009, you set up and became the founder of a business called Apex Racing, which we'll touch on in a bit. 2012 to 2017, worked for a business called Race Logic as a sort of network and systems expert. 2016 onwards, became team manager of an esports entity called 130 Racing.
Yep.
And then 2017 onwards, as with Ben and co, set up Virtually Entertained.
Yes.
That all sound about right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So this is actually the first interview we've ever done where we've got more than one business owner on. Now, there isn't just the two of you, as you've just alluded to a second ago. So there's how many owners within Virtually Entertained?
There's 5 of us.
Okay. And so just in relation to both of you, what's been the sort of background and genesis to Virtually Entertained being launched? Because you've clearly got other businesses in the background. So if I start with you, Ben, talk to me about Simply Race.
So Simply Race is a simulator centre. So imagine go-karting, but on simulators, 15 of them linked together. Okay. With a bar as well. So great for corporate events, and stag do's, and we have kids' parties and all that kind of stuff. We do some esports events. They're local-based esports events. So we started doing those type of highly competitive events at Simply Race, and from that, getting a good name for the way that we did live streaming, the way that we organised the events, and from there we're invited to do lots of other bigger, wider competitions, and using our expertise. So it became fairly clear that there was a sort of a gap in the market for people that could bridge the gap between motorsport and gaming. Understood how both aspects worked, and knew how to run events, and that's where we kind of decided to set up Virtual Entertainment as a separate entity, to do everything off-site, everything technical that needed sort of consultancy and full event management, and we did that with myself. I consider myself a bit of an all-rounder, but not particularly amazing in every area. Darren's very technical. Martin's very operational, really knows how to organise things to every nth degree, and Lawrence and Dan, who are very good at commercial aspects and that. So it became a very it was like an obvious way of setting up the company, I think, with lots of different skill sets.
And so how did you meet Darren?
So Darren brought his Race Logic team into, he popped in himself first, but brought the Race Logic team down to Simply Race back when I was working every single day at Simply Race, every day and every night. Because we were sort of getting off the ground at that point, and worked very hard together on developing the simulators, on developing the live broadcasting technology, how we improved all that kind of stuff. And we go back to 3 years ago when we were broadcasting it's I mean, to be fair, it was really good back then. It was better than 99% of other esports competitions, to be honest, but right now we made a big jump over the years, and so Darren's expertise and his experience of broadcasting online races combined with our in-person races at Simply Race, and it kind of made much more interesting programs. So we worked together a lot, and I owe Darren many days work that he did for free for me at Simply Race whilst we were working on improving the show.
Sure.
But in the end, we've kind of come together, and that's hopefully, we would suggest being rewarded by the fact that we're actually now properly in business together, doing the offset, doing Virtual Entertainment.
And complementing each other.
I'd agree with that.
And so Darren, your sort of journey, so you set up an organisation called Apex Racing.
Yes.
So and then sort of went on to Race Logic and then on to sort of Virtual Entertainment. So what was Apex Racing?
So it was probably about 2008 when you've got like games like Halo 3 were going massive, and there's a lot of people in Call of Duty. I was racing online and just noticed that it was like everyone would pile into the first corner and there was no sort of respect on track. So I created a website in my spare time to try and improve online sim racing, and it grew pretty big. It hit the point though with it where I was spending a huge amount of time trying to do it for something that was a hobby. I didn't race anymore myself, and then I ended up moving jobs a few times and had to concentrate more on my work rather than this. So.
Getting paid.
Yeah.
But the numbers, so I had a look at your website, so on the Virtual Entertainment website and the stats. So your sort of Apex Racing, you were hitting sort of 2 million hits in a year.
Yeah, we had some crazy stats at some point. So I mean, it's still going today. Some other people have passed it on to some other people who are still running it.
Good.
Which is great. I mean, it wasn't quite like with some of the titles and stuff that we were using, wasn't quite what interested me. And also, I really wanted to do big in-person events. I mean, it was very key for me. It's fine doing things at home, and it's a great way of getting people involved, but I really wanted to go and create these big esports events. So I can remember one day, I think I saw one of Ben's adverts for Simply Race, and he had 10 simulators. I walked in one day and we had a chat, and I was like, well, why don't you live broadcast this?
Yeah.
So I know how to do it. And then we spent many hours refining that, really working on it, and then also trying to work together on because I think it's fair to say some of the esports events at Simply Race are generally for a local market and introducing it to the Milton Keynes area. But we now get teams coming over from Denmark, and we've had ones coming over from Europe to take part in the events. These are big sim racing teams that have seen what we do, and they're like, I want to bring my team.
So for anyone listening that isn't aware, hasn't heard of esports before, what is it?
It's competing. It's motorsport, but it's competing in a game instead.
Okay. And just motorsport.
No, it can be much wider. I think we concentrate on motorsport because that's who we are. We're motorsport people. We enjoy motorsport. It can be a number of different games that are competitive, but essentially it's competitive gaming.
Yeah.
So for us, I prefer, from the racing perspective, call it e-racing, because I think it defines it clearer from the rest of the esports, because it is very, very different. You can't just tag esports on it and it suddenly becomes a viable entity. It's, I think the design of an e-racing competition is very important, that you consider all of the previous history of racing and motorsport as well. So it's got to combine the two. It's combining two different audiences. It's combining the gamers and it's combining the motorsport fans.
Yeah.
Has several advantages in my head over both traditional motorsport and traditional inverted commas esports as well. It's the only esport that has some real life application, so it ties in closely. If I play the F1 game, I'm driving, again in inverted commas, the same tracks as Lewis Hamilton is driving in his Mercedes when you go around the world. So it ties in with brands, it ties in with existing series. It's whereas if you're playing a game that something like Dota, which I guess most people who are listening to this wouldn't know what it is, but it's a point and click strategy game. That doesn't tie into the real world at all. So in my head, the opportunities are smaller. That you're kind of limited to people within the computer gaming space. Whereas we look at e-racing, we can look at people like Acer or Asus or whoever creating computers and components, but we can also then start looking at automotive brands. We can look at manufacturers. We've got all the other, everything else, plus the real world equivalents can also get on board with it as well. And looking at one of our recent projects, which is the Nissan Gt Sport Cup, just a week ago, and we're still recovering. It was valid for them to do a competition because doing their competition attracted the best drivers to their brand, and they drove for them in the FIA Manufacturers Cup in Gran Turismo, and then Nissan won that, and that gives them fantastic exposure. And it ties in with their motorsport program. It's a really good way of engaging younger audiences.
Okay. And so you just mentioned a couple of obviously car manufacturers there. So from a sort of a customer base, Virtually Entertained is working with who? I've got a list here: Nissan, Toyota, McLaren. Who else?
Yeah, so we worked for all of those guys. We did some brand activation stuff for Petronas as well, the Italian Grand Prix. I was at Rally GB with Citroën just a couple of days ago
in Wales.
In Wales, and Darren was also there with Toyota. So alongside the esports competitions, we've also been doing some hires and activations on site. So getting people onto stands at exhibitions, conferences, and getting people onto the stand is valuable. You're engaging them with something they already enjoy, which is gaming. They understand it. You're giving them a positive experience with your brand by getting them involved. You can have conversations, you can capture data, all valuable things. The one thing I always say from the exhibition and activation perspective is there's no point having a big stand and paying thousands of pounds or tens of thousands of pounds to do that if you've got nothing to attract people onto the stand. So by bringing us on board, like Petronas in Italy, which is sort of Ferrari territory, having the simulators, obviously Petronas sponsor Mercedes, having the simulators meant there were hundreds, if not thousands, of Italian fans coming through, getting engaged with the brand, and enjoying their experience with the brand as well. Which
That's very clever. That's very, very good. And so basically, you will take along your sort of your simulator kit, as it were. And so I've seen it. I've seen it at a couple of events that I've attended, within the sort of STC and Silverstone Park. So you've got driving simulators, obviously the seats, the full steering wheel. Obviously set up to play either F1 clearly if that's the sort of the background. What other games? Gran Turismo?
Any racing game really. Gran Turismo, Project Cars, R Factor.
I mean, quite often,
iRacing,
we've got a specific client or brand, and we'll have a look around to see what's applicable to them. Because obviously Toyota always want a Toyota on the stand.
Sure, of course. yeah.
So I mean, at the weekend we used one of the official rally games.
Okay.
So you had it was actually last year's car, but on some of the stages that they were going around.
Okay.
I think a lot of, especially on my stand, a lot of people realise exactly how difficult rally is.
Yeah, sure.
And they were like, "Oh, wow, that is hard," and then they get to watch it on the big TV and the car's coming over, and you see exactly how narrow.
And you've incorporated a handbrake onto the simulator now as well, so people can literally do skids around corners and.
Yeah, it's challenging. There's a lot to do.
And I guess you guys get to play this as well a lot, presumably, or you used to.
Yeah, well, I think we all used to play it more, but we generally don't. We have a simulator in the office for testing purposes.
Sure.
But quite often it's not in use because it's just it could be a time sink.
Yeah. And out of the two of you, who'd be the better racer?
Me.
Of course.
It's fairly clear, I think.
Ben likes to think he's quicker, but I think it depends on game and day.
It does actually. It does depend on game.
Oh, of course. You're always going to have your favourite and the thing you're good at.
Yeah, I think we've got a good rivalry.
Enjoy. I mean, I don't get to play it very often anymore. So we when gaming is your job, you don't have time. It's really weird. You don't have time to play it.
It's like chefs, aren't they? Chefs cook fantastic meals all day, but then just eat takeaway at the end of the day because they're too tired to do it themselves.
But at the same time, although we don't really have time because we're so busy and flat out on projects, when we're trying to approach projects, we're always trying to look at it from our perspective. So if I'm designing a competition, it needs to be a competition that I would want to be involved in should I have the time.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to design things from that perspective. So yeah.
And so the other three guys involved in Virtual Entertain. So how did you both meet them, and where's the sort of genesis of those relationships?
So I have the longest history with them, which is a bit strange. When I was at Daytona as the general manager, I I was running GT Academy karting days, so our business partners used to run the GT Academy program.
Okay.
And so I met them then, and I ran every single karting day that they took the GT Academy potentials, hopefuls to. So that's when I met them, and I thought, actually, that's a really cool job. When you want to run loads of global events with gamers and taking them to real race cars, which was amazing, and unfortunately that GT Academy project is sort of on a hiatus at the moment. So they had that experience, but then also they came to Simply Race to do a Christmas party one year, which was great. We got chatting again, and then there were a couple of projects last year where they needed the technical knowledge that both Darren and I had. So we did a few events in the Middle East with them.
Great.
For some royalty, which was interesting.
Wow, okay.
So we did that, and a couple of projects came up that we ended up kind of pitching for, I guess, together. And it just made sense to combine forces. Their sort of global knowledge of event delivery,
commerciality,
and commercial knowledge, and our sort of technical knowledge and gaming knowledge and all that, and just combine that into one company.
Match made in heaven. And appreciating you probably can't talk too much about the royalty-based event. What was that like doing that? And can you mention the family or what country it was in, or anything that we can tell our listeners? What was it like?
It was in the middle of a desert,
right?
In the Middle East. It was the first time I've been over there, and it was certainly eye-opening, and it was a really interesting experience. And
you flew your kit out there?
Yes. Yeah, it was actually flown. Yeah, the second time it was shipped, but had a bit more time to prepare for that one. But
how many units did you take out?
6 the first time.
Yeah, 6 the first time, and then 3 the second. They were bigger units than the second time. Bigger, sort of big motion platform things. The first ones were smaller, but multiplayer. So there's a trade-off there, it's a country in the Middle East that is generally quite secluded, and you don't get to visit if you're not invited. And it was very interesting culturally, and I enjoyed it. I can't wait to get back.
Yeah.
We are working on a project out there at the moment as well. And
that introduction presumably came through some of the work your business partners,
yes.
the relationships they've been developing over the years.
Yeah, exactly.
There we are. So you've already got proof of concept that the partnership's going to work. That's great. And so that's esports. So that's sort of live online broadcasting. Connecting gamers to something a bit more tangible in relation to sort of real life experiences, but within a gaming environment. So completely get that. Talk to me about virtual reality. So what do you think the future of gaming and virtual reality is? Because you see these consoles that are obviously out to the general public at the moment, but how do you see that evolving with what you do and for folk like me at home? That game.
I mean, we've used virtual reality we've done some standalone virtual reality experiences. So there was one we did which was ski jump and skiing.
Wow, okay.
Because it was an insurance company and they wanted to try and sell insurance. So it was a bit of a weird
ski party insurance.
Career-ending insurance.
But I mean, they found it very useful as like a draw to the stand. Personally, I've used VR quite a bit, but I don't own a VR headset myself. Because the technology is moving on and we know that there's going to be new headsets in the future. So it's one of those technologies that, depending on what you're doing with it, it's mind-blowing and it's really engaging and it really draws you in. But I'm sort of sat there going, the next version is going to be the one that I would want to have. But I mean, I've used like some of the PlayStation VR stuff, which is great for... It's like the low cost, even some of the VR stuff you can get for phones, just to like look around at things. But whereas I like gaming, and I just want. I think some of the games are a little bit behind where the VR technology could be. Sure. So movement, for one, is something that can be tricky. And you can get room scale where you can walk around an environment and go around places, but you're still tied. And it's only in the last couple of months you've seen that the play area has grown from 3 meters to 10 meters. So if you've got space for it, it can be amazing. I don't have the space at the moment.
And how do you incorporate it into virtual entertainment? So how can a business or an individual who wants access to it through what you guys do, how do you offer it?
So from a VR perspective, it's about finding something that engages with their potential market. So like Darren mentioned, if you are a ski insurer, you would get something that has something to do with skiing, and there's a lot of off-the-shelf programs that we can kind of work with. For example, for Waterbury Hall, we are doing a VR snowball fight because they have an après ski feel to their Christmas parties this year.
Wow.
Which is cool. You can also engage it with the racing simulators. You can be sat inside a cockpit. Our F1 seats are shaped like an F1, so your bum is very close to the ground and then your legs are slightly higher up, and you can look around your cockpit, and that's really, really cool. So it's about, for us, just trying to make sure that we find something that is applicable to that business, and just if it doesn't exist, then making it exist as well.
And do you guys have any sort of in relation to hopes and projects moving forward? Anything that's that you can discuss or talk about in relation to exciting things coming up, or anything that you want to work on?
So I think we want to ensure that if you're racing online, it becomes a bit more like Darren's Apex Racing Online project. But much more simplified and automated. So racing online becomes fair. There becomes a reward for it. So we're working on ways of developing a system that anyone anywhere in the world, whatever racing game it is that you're playing, we support that through a competition structure.
Okay.
So that you can find clean races and you can have admin staff that will ban drivers that are being silly or. So that's one of our big projects. I think that as vague as that was, because I can't go into too much detail.
Appreciate that.
That is going to be a big thing for us to do more online stuff, because I don't think there's many, if any, companies that have done more in-person events. And for us trying to design something that makes sense online, which in my opinion doesn't exist anywhere currently, is the next big thing for us. Exciting.
Yeah. More to follow. We'll have to get you guys on in another year or two to actually hear about how that's progressed. So as we're recording this, we're sat in the Innovation Centre on Silverstone Park. You are a member of the Silverstone Technology Cluster, as is my business, Longhurst. So how long have you been part of the cluster, and how long have you been on Silverstone Park?
So the business was only started in February, so since then.
Fine, brand new.
Yeah. I mean, our business partners they've been on the park for quite a while now.
Sure.
So it made sense for us to come and join them up here rather than sort of being in Milton Keynes where we were. So we've done quite a few events, I think.
So how have you engaged within the sort of technology cluster? Have you put on any events for the members to sort of understand and learn a little bit more about what you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we first launched, actually, we ended up doing a little taster day or taster evening, I should say, here in the Innovation Centre with sort of 6 simulators linked together, and did a series of heats and short races, explosive races, and also with some food and other VR experiences put on, which was great. It was nice to kind of introduce ourselves, get that brand awareness out amongst the cluster. I think it was a good sort of 40, 50 people that turned up to that. And it's always good to do those kind of things, because the more people see you, especially in the motorsport world, it's a very small circle. The more they realise you're real, the more they realise you exist, and you're ever present in their minds as well.
But one thing, whilst the equipment we've got is fun, so it was good to sort of turn up and be like, well, we're here. Mm-hmm. We've got what essentially is toys.
Yeah.
And it was great to see the community just coming along and taking part. And
well, that's the point, isn't it? So, I saw you guys, I saw your stand at the South Northants sort of investment seminar that they ran a couple of weeks ago on in Silverstone circuit. And I stood there chatting to you guys and saw, other attendees.
Yeah.
Get very excited about sitting in and having a race against a colleague, and then a couple of guys sat down and had a go with the virtual reality set, which they said was very challenging, and I think they managed to do 8 to 10 laps and had good fun, which is, I think, the really important word there, fun. And certainly from a businesses considering doing it as either for staff or for potentially networking events themselves, I can totally see why it's been so popular. And presumably your hopes and plans with being part of Silverstone Park and Silverstone Technology Cluster is to, over time, gradually engage with more businesses on site, to work with them to run events. Presumably for our benefit as other cluster members, we can hopefully get to go on some of these simulators in the future. You may run another event, hopefully. We'll sort of corner you into that on the podcast.
If there's space in the diary.
No, of course, I'm teasing. But it totally makes sense. Proof is in the pudding. Giving people access to the units and playing on them makes sense. And I love the Italian Grand Prix example that in a very sort of Ferrari heavy environment, Petronas are attracting these fans to at least engage with the simulator and then talk about the brand and potentially buy merchandise, dare I say, and whatever else. So from a business perspective, it makes sense. So Cool. We're sort of going to move on to just a very, very small piece just about you guys personally. We talk about the business, talk about a little bit of life on Silverstone Park. This is a sort of moment where I can normally see the guests sort of sink into their chair as I say, actually, let's talk about Ben and Darren a little bit. But actually, you guys have been very cool, and you've already shared a lot of information regarding your sort of academic journey and sort of career journey. Both of you live locally, so Ben, you live in Northamptonshire.
Grange Park, freshly moved there, just a few months ago. So it was about 20 minutes on a good day and 40 minutes on a bad.
and so presumably the move up here was in part convenience to be closer to where you're working, but also potentially sort of lifestyle.
Yeah, I think I used to live in Milton Keynes, so it's not so far away to go to Grange Park.
Sure.
It's conveniently between my two businesses, so I can visit both within 20 minutes.
Yeah, cool.
And to be honest, South Northamptonshire is quite nice. So it was a nice move.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And obviously, Darren, you're based in Milton Keynes.
Yep.
So local lad as well. Obviously, only a short sort of 20-minute drive up the A5, subject to traffic.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm looking at trying to buy a house at the moment, so I don't know whether I'll stay in Milton Keynes, but
Northamptonshire.
Yeah.
Where it's at?
Yeah, South Northamptonshire. Louise, my partner, and I just moved here.
Yeah.
We live in a village a few minutes away from Silverstone, and it's fantastic.
Pressure.
And clearly, when you need to do your mortgage, that's what we do within Longhurst. One of the many things. So
there we go.
I've cornered you on air as well there. So very smart.
Very smooth.
I'm teasing. But if you do need a second opinion, just let us know. So that's great. And presumably the plan is literally concentrate on growing and building your businesses in the region.
Yeah.
Married, engaged, plan to start family, and sort of set up roots here.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
One question that I occasionally ask is for those that are listening that aren't part of the region, but are interested in either sort of motorsport, esports, e-racing, technology innovation, they can actually, should we either set up business or start partnering with firms within the Silverstone region, and maybe even move closer, like you've done. In one sort of sentence, if you could try and break it down in a nutshell, what would you say to encourage them to come here? Why should they even bother considering coming here like you've done?
I think the easiest way of doing this is to steal my colleague Lawrence's saying, which is that Silverstone is the Harley Street of motorsport. So if you're here, then you are one of the top motorsport businesses, and if you're not, then you're not. So you have to be here.
I mean, we're centred around most of the Formula One teams.
Yes.
They're all based in or very close to this area, and also just motorsport in general. It's one of the reasons I moved back towards Milton Keynes was when I went to Race Logic, because I had a job in finance that wasn't very interesting.
Okay.
And I wanted to get involved in motorsport in some way.
Yeah.
So my journey's been a little bit, probably long to get here.
With a few detours.
Yes.
But you're here.
But yeah, that's the main thing. And I've always wanted to work up near Silverstone, and I'm actually here now.
Yeah. It's Motorsport Valley.
Yes.
It's important to have the address on the business card.
Yeah, that's credibility to what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Certainly within the e-racing circle and with the platform perhaps you're in the process of building. I think, exactly one of the reasons why we moved our business here. We have a natural niche in sort of tech and engineering. A lot of our clients work within the race teams that you've mentioned. Some of the clients that you already have, we have clients there as well. So again, it's the reason why we've set up our head office literally slap bang where we're sat right now. So totally endorse everything you've said there. Before we actually started the interview, off air I said and asked the question just to prep you on. Normally, I like to ask a question over mistakes people make professionally, and the reason for that is, let's be honest, throughout our careers and our lives, we probably made some horrendous mistakes. But actually, as we discussed it, you guys basically confirmed that so far
we're just perfect.
The perfect. All the mistakes you've made are too boring.
They're boring. They're around sort of missing cables, or I smashed a TV screen once and I had to go and buy another one.
And that's because you dropped it, or what was the story there?
There's been a few over the years. One in the Middle East that they all broke inside the flight case. That was interesting. We had to go and find a local place to go and buy 4 new TVs.
Wow.
Which was fun. I've had one at Simply Race that was smashed by a customer.
Right.
Which was fun.
What, through anger?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a mistake of my own, but he got so angry he threw his headset at the screen.
Yeah, that must happen. You must get. I mean, I know I'm like when I'm gaming, I play with my nephew online, and you end up shouting and screaming and swearing, and presumably people swear and
So I don't get that. I think you get annoyed, but you don't throw anything. Anyway, this particular customer paid for this for a replacement screen. Which was good of them, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think he was quite embarrassed because he was there with work.
Right.
Yeah. So if he didn't, I suppose it would have been even worse.
Yeah. That'd be interesting actually, if you ever do run any other STC-based events to see whether our peers on site get angry. I'm envisaging.
And do you know what? They were fairly good last time.
Were they?
Yeah, they were.
Pim's very competitive. We went to the quiz night last night, and I was on Pim's team, and we came second, which I thought was a valiant attempt, and. He got very upset, so I can imagine him if he was doing some of this online racing. I can imagine him screaming.
You can look back. We did a little broadcast actually of the last one we did, and you could probably hear some swearing in the background.
Is that presumably we can put some of these links in the show notes? So
for sure.
Certainly links to obviously Virtually Entertain, but any of the other sort of business entities that you want to sort of help connect people with. Certainly with Simply Race as an example, that sounds like. Ultimately, it was one of the spots where you all met. Really, to a point. That's the.
It was a good launch pad for Virtually Entertain.
Yeah, good. Right, so we're coming to the end of the interview. So, guys, thank you again both for coming on. Really appreciate your time and sharing a little bit about the sort of story and the makeup of Virtually Entertained. Definitely want to get you back on again. Maybe in a year's time we can find out if there's been any progress with. Some of the projects that you're working on, and no doubt I'll be seeing you around at events anyway, hopefully.
Yes.
Before I get on to the very last question, is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have, or anything you want to talk about that you think whilst I've got 5 minutes we can talk about something?
From me, not in particular.
No,
I think I've covered most things that I was prepared for at least.
Yes.
Okay, good. Right, very last question. And I always ask this question, I always say the same thing, because I'm the host, I can be selfish, I can ask a question for my own benefit personally. And actually it's been quite good fun over all the different interviews. So my question is always, whether it be sort of personal, sort of life-based journey that you've been on, or something sort of professionally, what bit of advice, bit of knowledge, bit of wisdom could you pass back to me as Chris Broome, owner of Longhurst? And anything on your journey that you think that might be interesting?
I think you always have to do something that you enjoy. And for us, we always try and make something that we would want to do ourselves. So if you're doing anything else and you're getting bored, waking up in the morning, you don't want to go to work, you should really rethink what you're doing with your life. Because that's what I did.
There you are.
And same, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that there are, and you can understand, so many people get stuck in a rut with a career and occupation and a paycheck and life responsibilities, and sometimes forget the fun element of it and the enjoyment element of it, and as you said, the sort of spark to get out of bed in the morning and be passionate about what you're doing. So, sage advice. Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you very much for coming on the show. I look forward to seeing what you guys get up to in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
The Inside Silverstone podcast is produced by the team at Longhurst for the benefit of those with a passion for all things tech, engineering and innovation. For more information, please visit longhurst.co.uk/Inside Silverstone, whilst also remembering to give us a 5 out of 5 star rating on iTunes. Please note that neither Chris Broome or Longhurst work for Silverstone Park, Silverstone Circuit or Silverstone Technology Cluster.